to the season 2 of Decoding Data Analytics podcast. This podcast is all about analytics from the perspective of global data professionals. And today we have Nick Singh as a first guest to resume the second season, who is former Google, former Meta, Facebook. He is the author of the best-selling book, Is the Data Science Interview, and also the co-founder of datalemur.com. This show is going to be really, really amazing. So stay tuned till the end.
Thanks for having me. I'm really excited.
Perfect. Let's start with the major questions. So, can you share journey from working at Facebook and Google to now becoming the creator of datalemur.com and being the bestseller book author?
Yeah, for sure. I think the big inflection point in my career was when COVID hit. It let me reflect on my job and what I was doing. Around that same time, I saw a lot of my friends get laid off. Job offers were rescinded back in spring of 2020. So me and my co-author, Kevin, we had used the book Cracking the Coding Interview to help us get to Silicon Valley. But we were wondering, why is there no more data-focused resource? Because there's a book called Cracking the PM Interview. There's a book called Cracking the Coding Interview. Consultants have Cracking the Case Interview. So, we just started writing and we were locked in. It was pandemic, so we had nothing better to do. So we're just like, all right, let's sit, focus, write. We did that for a year, and out came Ace the Data Science Interview. And that did really well, and it sold really well, and people really liked the tips that are inside there. But one thing that people kept saying to us, Jahanvee, was, how do I practice the SQL questions in your book in a more interactive way? So that kind of naturally led us to make datalemur.com a way to practice those SQL interview questions, but interactively online for free.
Wow, that's really amazing because I have both your books as well and Datalemur subscription when even though I transitioned it, but just to be in the loop that I don't get off touch, I got them. And even when I was prepping for anything, let me just open the book. And not even just book, I guess you also have a newsletter in initial days before Datalemur. So even followed that, I bookmarked it because the content was really, really good.
Awesome. I'm glad to hear that. I'm really happy to hear that.
So we all know that your book, Is the Data Science Interview, was the need of the hour because, as you said, we have books for coding interviews, we have books for cracking PM interviews, but there was nothing for data science or data analytics. And that's what I love about even Datalemur. So can you just give us a sneak peek on what key strategies are being mentioned there that is actually helping candidates to, excel in data science or data analytics interviews?
Right. So when it comes to preparing for technical interviews, I think the cool thing in both sites is the big question bank sourced from real interviews, thanks to my network of hiring managers, people who've done interviews, and then me and Kevin have actually been able to interview at a lot of these companies or even work there at Facebook, Google. He worked at Facebook, Bloomberg, and a hedge fund. So we've been around the block interviewing. So it's been really cool to kind of amass a really good, clean, curated list of questions with solutions. I think some of that's floating around on Glassdoor, of course, the individual questions, but usually never the solutions, and usually never in a well thought out, formulated way, and of course never interactive like the way Datalemur is. So I think just letting people practice on that question bank has been really helpful for people. The other big thing that people really like is the chapter on portfolio projects and cold emails. Actually, probably in particular, cold emails is the one that I get the most emails about. Maybe people just want to be cheeky. For people who don't know what a cold email is, it's where you reach out to somebody you don't know, someone you don't have a connection with, but you write to them in a really thoughtful, well-written way that says, hi, I'm Jahanvee. Here's what I do. Here's my social following. Here's how I can help you. Do you have time to call? Or, hey, here's why I'm interested in your company and your position. Do you have time to chat about it? Can you give me a referral? Anything like that. I think that's the thing that people have told me is the most unexpected thing, because they were looking at the book for more of a question bank, and then they come find out this career advice that helps them open up huge, huge opportunities.
Yeah. And not even that, when I read the book, the main thing which I really like was behavioral interviews and managerial rounds. Because you can practice SQL because you know that you've been doing that. But the thing which comes across and you are lost is behavioral interviews and managerial rounds because you don't know what to answer, how to answer. I guess that chapter was my favorite one because at that point I got this is how you answer in a much more professional way. This is how you handle it.
Yep. No, I'm glad that was there. And I think that that's I'm really lucky that people have different favorite parts of the book.
Yeah.
Because if there's one, if the rest of the book sucked and there's one chapter that was great, everyone would have the same answer. But it's always fun to hear that different people have different answers.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's great to hear.
Yeah, amazing. Okay, so as you said that you have already seen that it was a need of the hour. Many people wanted to practice even on platforms. So you built it datalemure.com. So can you elaborate like what kind of challenges candidates were facing earlier, which who got resolved with Datalemure, and what are your plans for future with Datalemure?
For sure. I think when we started working on Data Lemur, as I mentioned, we've sold thousands of copies of our book, but people kept
Mm.
repeatedly saying, I want to practice these online. I want to practice these in an interactive way. And there are sites
Yeah,
that allow you to practice SQL online, but a lot of
yeah,
them are really expensive. A lot of them require you to sign up. A lot of them are not very accessible. So in making Data Lemur and making it accessible, we purposely made design decisions to make it pretty open. For example, you can go on our
yeah,
site without logging in and start running SQL right in the browser for some of these real questions. You can't submit your solution because then we'd have to grade it and assign it to your account. But I mean to say that you can run and query and get back output and then visually see, is it right? And you can do this for hundreds of questions. And I think that makes us quite different than a lot of other platforms where everything's locked down, everything needs an email, everything needs to be signed up, everything's paywalled. We just tried to make it an open approach because we knew, we knew that it wins, and we knew that people would anyways check out our site, start playing around with it, and once they liked it, they would delve further in and sign up or do whatever they need to do.
yeah. That's perfect. I never checked out because I logged in directly. I guess in
Cool.
the start there were 50 free questions you started off with. Yeah, that was
Yep.
pretty amazing. And now I've seen this statistics questions as well being added.
Yep.
Yeah.
And there's still more content coming. I think what I'm most, you know what, I'll drop it here. I'll let you guys know. I think in the next few days, probably by the time this podcast is out, to be honest, we'll also have a really good interactive SQL tutorial for people who don't know SQL at all. I think our site has been really geared. I mean, these questions are not easy. These FANG SQL interview questions, even the ones marked easy, aren't easy. They're not for
They're not.
beginners, right? Because a Google interview, an easy Google interview question, is still pretty damn hard. I mean, they still expect you to know SQL. So the cool thing that's about to come out, and by the time the podcast is out, it'll be there, is if you go on datalemur.com/SQL tutorial, SQL-tutorial, or you just search it
Yeah.
up, you'll find actually about 30 lessons for free that are fully interactive that walk you through literally the start. What is SQL select, all the way to the end parts where we talk about cleanliness, window functions, order of operations, performance tuning, and all of it is free. All of it can be done without logging in, and all of it has interactive SQL interactive exercises. So
Mhm.
you actually test what you're learning. It's not like a book that's teaching you. It's not like Coursera where there's videos. These are real questions where you have a coding environment to run the code, and it's 100% free, no login needed.
Wow, that's so amazing. I mean, to get these interactive lessons early in the stage of your career, that's going to be really, really amazing and helpful for people who are just starting out.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a lot of fun, and I can't wait for people to come check it out.
Yeah, and I totally agree that even the easy questions in data lemma is very tough. So
Yeah,
how would you advise analysts or data scientists how they should approach questions? I know your website does mention that like there's a whole tutorial on
sure,
how to approach questions, but just for the sake of this podcast, would love
for
to know
sure.
like how should a person, approach SQL questions in a technical interview or in general while solving it?
Absolutely. So I think one big thing is people start jumping into writing code way too early before
Yeah.
understanding what's the question asking, what data do we have, what columns are needed, are there any edge cases? So that's the first thing I'm doing, because especially for an on-site interview where you're with a person, you want to ask these clarifying questions. They're actually expecting that. Because just like in the real world, you don't just jump in. You ask clarifying questions, you see the parameters, you try to figure out the design before you start coding up anything. So
Yeah.
this is something that I feel like people jump into too much because they're too used to practicing these online things that when they show up in person, they're like, okay, let's just sit quietly and start coding. And I don't think it really works like that in real interviews. Like you want to ask them these questions and you want to be thoughtful because you can't just run the code 86 times in a real interview. You kind of want to get it right in the first, second, third time, especially if someone's watching you, right? If it's on the whiteboard or whatever, you can't just sit there and keep rerunning. So I think doing all that prep work before you start coding is very important. The other huge thing I'd let people know is always see if you can break down the big problem into smaller chunks. Now, the easy questions are not easy, but they're still straightforward. They're asking you for one thing. But a big hallmark of a medium or hard question is they're asking you multiple things. I'll give you an example from a real Amazon SQL interview question that you can practice for free on Data Lemur. So the question is called highest grossing items, okay? And it's giving you it's giving you a data set of a whole bunch of products that were bought on Amazon and how much was spent on these products and the category these products fall into, whether it's a toy, whether it's electronics, whatever. So it's asking you to figure out what are the top 2 highest selling products in each category in the year 2022, right? So you see how long of a question statement that is. Top 2 highest selling products in each category in the year 2022. The mistake is people start just trying to code that right from the get-go, but they don't realize, okay, in the year 2022, well, forget the rest of the code. Let's just filter on date to 2022. Maybe I don't know how to do the rest, but at least that's something. Do a where clause, filter on the date, year 2022. Okay, great. Then the next part might be, the highest grossing items. Well, we have to aggregate the sum of the spend because these are all line by line items. Let's like sum up how many people bought Apple, how many people bought an iPad, how many people bought AirPods, right? So that's the second part. Okay, we broke down this big thing into, figuring out sum of spend. Then if you notice in the question, it said, tell me the top 2 in each category. Well, by each category means group by. Okay, great. So let's add that in. And each time I'm adding something in, I'm rerunning the code. So I'm not trying to write this all in one go. My first thing I'm doing literally is just a filter by date, and I'm going to run that. Okay. And some people are used to doing that, all in one go, but I will literally sit there and just be like, okay, great. The data is all filtered to 2022. Because, it's easy to mess up, and the syntax for filtering by date is different in each flavor of SQL, right? So it's easy to mess up. Oh, is it extract, or how do we filter on date? Right? So I just test each small thing. So I think that's like my biggest strategy overall is clarify a whole bunch of stuff early on, break it into smaller problems, and then the rest takes care of itself. And probably my last piece of advice is people do like one tutorial and think that they can start doing these harder SQL interview questions, but they never internalize the concepts, right? There's a very different thing between learning, here's how a window function works, and then you actually have to sit there and write a window function on the spot. So I think people don't practice enough. They watch YouTube videos and they just sit back. And they don't ever run code, or they look at Coursera, same deal. I think at least that's the big reason why the SQL tutorial, you can run all these code snippets right there in the browser, no installation, no nothing, for free, no login, right in the browser, run everything, and you are forced to write code to progress through the tutorial. So that would be probably my last piece, which is like, maybe you suck at interviews because you just don't know SQL that well. And maybe that's a sign you should go learn the foundations, because if your foundations are not good, you're screwed.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. When I started off with my career, I used to go to interview. They used to ask me questions, and I was just jumping on to the problem and solution. And they're like, okay, don't worry. Is this your first? And I was like, yeah, like take a seat back and just share your thoughts. You don't have to just start writing. We are not checking your technical skills. We are also checking the approach you are taking while solving it.
Right,
So
exactly.
it's very important to share your thought process as well. Even though you write wrong code, that's okay. At least we'll know the thought process, how you wrote it.
Yep.
So I guess that's very important to go step by
100%.
step, breaking down the chunks.
100%. That's exactly it. When you break it down, and especially in person, and you verbalize that, you're good to go. Because they can see, you're being thoughtful about how you approach the problem. Even if there's a slight syntax issue or a typo or a bug, at least you broke it down correctly in the same way that they might have done. And
Yeah,
that scores you a lot of points with the interviewer.
definitely. No, these were really amazing tips. Okay, moving on to the next question. This is a bit tricky. So, in data science and data analytics, we have to talk to a lot of non-technical people, right?
Sure.
But on a daily basis, we are dealing with technical skills. We are being checked on technical skills. But soft skills are often underestimated and they are important too in the data science and the data analytics world. So how do you want to emphasize on the importance of soft skills?
Yeah, soft skills are huge. And probably the biggest interview question that I see people mess up is literally the first one, which is tell me about yourself. And it's so funny
Yeah,
when people mess this up because it's literally tell me about yourself. Like I don't even know
yeah,
you. It's your floor. You have the floor. You can say
your
whatever you want, and
department.
people will still mess that up. And I've seen really smart people mess that up too, because people are
Hmm.
not very good at pitching themselves, and they're not good at pitching themselves concisely. Because no one wants to hear you say, "Oh, tell me about myself." Well, in preschool, I started playing with number blocks, and that's where like you don't need to start at preschool, right? Like people mess up like that and say, "Oh, here's the story about my dad." It's like, no, 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 that's not what an interview is about, right? When someone says, "Tell me about yourself," you just say, "Hey, I'm Jahanvee. I work here and here. I got into data because of this reason, and I'm really excited
Hmm.
about product analytics or retail analytics or e-commerce. And
Yeah.
that's why I'm really excited to talk to you." And that's boom, a 30, 45-second intro where you name drop some of your logos. You say, maybe how you got into data for one sentence, and you explain to them like why you're here and what's so cool about it. And boom, in 45 seconds, that's better than the person who starts reading off their resume. Let me tell you what I did 6 years ago in undergrad. So don't mess up about me. And when you
Hmm.
get good at answering about me, it just showcases a lot of good interpersonal skills, because no one wants to work with someone who just talks for 5 minutes. No
Who
one
don't
wants
know
to
about
work with
themselves.
someone. Yeah. And no one wants to work with someone who's like inarticulate. Because if you can't even
Yeah.
explain who you are, how are you going to explain your
Yeah.
analysis to a stakeholder? How are you going to defend your data-driven decision? You can't do that if you suck
Yeah.
at even talking about yourself and you had your whole life to prepare for that question and you can't even do that. So, focus on that question and focus on your story and focus on getting that concise. And I think that will really help you show off your behavioral personal skills and your verbal communication ability, which is huge for these data roles where you have to talk a lot to a lot of different people about your analysis and gather a lot of requirements and defend what you're doing.
Yeah, completely. I guess I got the same answer when you were in Shashank's channel on YouTube. And that really helped me. Like, I literally created like a picture for like 60 seconds that, okay, what exactly I have to speak in front of interview so that I know I'm confident about it.
Good.
I guess you gave the same answer there, and I was like, oh, this is really good because at that time, if you have to think, okay, this is about me, you are not sure that what to include, what to exclude.
Yes.
So if you can just create a pitch beforehand, like for 60 seconds, I'm going to say these things. Like after two, three times, you are going to just memorize it.
Yeah,
And you
exactly.
know very confidently what you want to include, what you want to exclude, how much content you are going to cover in those 60 seconds. Because
Yep.
over a call, they usually talk about like they give you like 60 to 90 seconds
Yeah.
to introduce yourself. I guess this was personally helpful to me as well when I
Good.
first saw it. So
Good. And I want to
verified.
nitpick on something you said. On a call,
Yeah.
you said that they give you 60 or 90 seconds. What happens is sometimes on a video call, or sometimes people feel awkward interrupting you because you're literally talking about yourself. So you should take 60 to 90 seconds, but some people, they won't even stop you. So you may just talk for 4 minutes and they're literally getting bored and like they're just like uncomfortable. Like, okay, who is this person? Why are they just talking for 5 minutes? So that's the fun thing,
Yeah.
which is why you have to practice getting into 60 to 90 seconds, because left to your own devices, some people will just let you talk and you'll think you're doing great. You think you're crushing it. Oh man, I told him even about my third grade math tournament and my fifth grade, class exam. Meanwhile, you're just screwing up your performance and you don't even realize it because you're just throwing it on and on.
Okay, let's move on. So, data science field is rapidly evolving. Okay. So how do you advise professionals to stay up to date with latest trends and technologies, and how do you stay updated?
Yeah, hot take. Things change, but not that much. Um, maybe the LLM stuff has really come and changed things, but just generally things are still quite stagnant. So many people in industry are still doing regression. SQL is still here to stay, right? Even though these LLMs can maybe write SQL, you're still going to be doing analysis with SQL. If you're a data analyst, pivot tables and Excel skills still come in handy, right? So I think sometimes staying too on trend is a little bit overrated because most of the work being done isn't on trend unless you're literally at like OpenAI or some cutting research lab, which is not the case for 99.9% of people. Isn't the case for me. So honestly, I don't stay on trend that much. I mean, maybe cloud and stuff, but those are, now the cloud's been around for 10 years, right? So maybe if something's been a trend for 5 to 10 years, okay, I'll pay attention, or at least a few years, right? Moving towards the cloud is a thing. NLP has been a thing for a while, so I'll pay attention. But just like the new latest and greatest research paper, doesn't really help my career that much, or is a good use of my time, to be honest, I think.
Yeah, agree. Okay. I remember the video where you recorded and saying that no one wants a Titanic dataset portfolio project, no one wants Iris dataset, like which are very, very common. So how would you advise someone to build a portfolio project in such a manner that they land a data science job or a data analytics job? Can you like throw some light on that?
Yeah, I'll do that quickly. I think I have a whole video course that covers some of this stuff, so you guys can check it out. I think it's called ACE, the Data Job Hunt. If you just Google that, you'll see my name come up, where I talk in videos more in depth and how to go build up these things. But I'll give you a quick teaser. I think whatever you do, I'm not going to answer the data set thing. I'm going to just leave you with one piece of advice. Whatever you do, make sure it's public. Public meaning don't let your project be sitting locally on your computer. Put out the code, make the Tableau dashboard and make it public. Use Tableau public, right? Use Streamlit to make something and make it public. Okay, if you make a site that, for example, you do a data-driven analysis and you write up a big story, put it on Medium and link to it. Whatever you do, even if it's lame, even if it's been done before, as long as it's something that I can link to, that's already something that's very helpful and very important. And something so few people have. Everyone tells, oh, I have Tableau skills. Okay, show me your dashboard. Oh, I don't have a dashboard. I'm like, you can make a dashboard for free using Tableau Public so that I could, in 1 second, see, are you full of shit? Or, oh, that's a beautiful dashboard. Oh, that's pretty cool, right? So this is what I mean. Whatever you do, make sure you have a public link to the work you've done.
Oh, wow, that's really amazing. Okay, we also discussed about behavioral interviews. So let's delve into that. And can you help us understand like how exactly these behavioral interviews are held, since you have been taking them and you must have experienced while the job hunting days as well. So why do you think it's being conducted, and how do they judge you? How do they make the interviewer take the decision-making process?
Yeah, so this is super unscientific, and every company does the behavioral interview differently. So I don't want to try to overgeneralize anything because SQL interviews are almost always conducted in a similar way. But these behaviorals, sometimes people don't even have an explicit behavioral interview round. But at the end of the interview process, they're still always judging you as a person. Do I want to work with this person? Do I want them on my team? Do I trust them? Are they a good fit for my company? So I don't want to like say, oh, here's a specific interview, behavioral round, and here's how it's going to be formatted, because some of the companies I worked at didn't even have a behavioral round. I mean, it's just sort of like chat with the person, or I mean, more like chat with the hiring manager, right? They're not trying to ask you, tell me about your failure, right? They're literally like, oh, just tell me about what you're doing, and then we're just having a conversation, right? So I think just my overall advice is be passionate. That's probably my best thing that can shine through. Be passionate about data, be passionate about work, be passionate about the domain you're trying to work for. If it's a healthcare company, talk about how you have experience with healthcare, or, seeing a family member go through something kind of influence your decision, or talk about your Apple Watch and help, heart rate data. Talk about any angle so that you say, yeah, you do healthcare data. I kind of like healthcare data too. Here's my proof. Here's my project I built. Here's my dashboard. Here's my last job, or here's my own personal story, or here's, a nerdy way I analyzed my own Apple Health Watch data, right? Whatever it be. So I think show you're passionate, and show you're passionate through people skills like smiling and being excited, but also show that in a hard way. Hard way meaning, Jahanvee, I don't need to tell you I'm passionate about helping data people. I
Yeah.
just show you my free SQL tutorial. I just show you Data Lemur, which is used by thousands of people daily. And then,
Yeah.
I don't need to BS around, oh, I really care about mentoring the future of data. No, I don't say that. I'm just like, I help
Yeah.
people every day for free. Here you go. So that's the kind of thing where, once you have those links and you can publicly defend that and say, no, no, no. Like, I'm passionate
Yeah.
about it, and you can see it here over years, or you know what? You can see it because I write about it on LinkedIn every day for 150,000 people, and you can't fake that.
Yeah.
That's
Definitely.
passion, right? And I don't expect anyone here to, oh, I have to be a LinkedIn influencer to do this, or oh, I have to make a thing with thousands of people using it daily to show passion. Even if 10 people use it, even if you made one app on the Android store, Play Store, and it got just 20 downloads, that's still 99% better than most people who have never built anything, published anything, written anything on Medium, tried to educate anyone, tried to analyze their own data, right?
Yeah, it does set you apart from the crowd, because if they are not doing it and you doing it without not much having technical knowledge, you are just setting a bar high for
Yep.
yourself.
Yep, exactly. And the crazy thing is I say all this and then people think like, oh, you have to do it to an extreme degree. Like you need to be famous, you need to do this. But I'm just like, dude, having one public Tableau dashboard that looks nice
Yeah.
is already probably in the top 10% of people who list Tableau as a skill, or they list data visualization as a skill.
Yeah.
So literally I can get to the 10th percentile by just almost doing the basic thing that you claim to know how to do. I'm not even claiming that you're
Yeah.
good at it or you need to claim anything. Just if you claim data visualization, prove it, you're already in the top 10%.
Exactly. I mean, that's really amazing, because Tableau is easy. If you're saying you know it, just show it.
Yeah, it's free. Like you have no excuse. Can be done in a weekend.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on to almost our last question. So you said that you have a LinkedIn of 150 people, almost
Yeah,
150K, and that's
150,000
really,
people. Yep.
really wow, that's really, really impressive. So with your substantial following on LinkedIn, how would you want to emphasize on a fact of networking and personal branding? Like, how can
Okay.
someone from the data field can use these platforms to enhance in their career prospects?
Okay. Hot take, 150,000 followers. I didn't build that. How do I explain you this? Like, I built that by showing value every day. And
Yeah.
it wasn't that I was trying to build a brand. It was more so just like, dude, I want people to use Data Lemur. I want people to buy my book. I want people to do these things. And in the process, a whole bunch of people followed me, if that makes sense. So I think
Yeah.
people mix up and think, oh, I want to build a brand and I want to help myself. I want to look good, right?
Mm.
But to really grow a follower count, to really build your brand, you don't do it by building yourself up. You
Yeah.
do it by building up other people or adding value to other people, right?
Yeah.
If that makes sense. So even if you only had 10 followers on LinkedIn, but you had a great dashboard and three
Mm.
great dashboards from Tableau, and you said you're a
Yeah.
data visualization person, I'm happy with that. Okay, great. You built three beautiful ones. They're all yours. You have the links. I don't mind that you don't
Yeah.
have a brand as a data visualization expert. I don't care.
Mm.
I don't care if you're a data influencer or not. So I think just brand might be a little bit, you can worry about that when you're a senior leader or when you're trying to be an exec or if you're trying to be self-employed. But for like 99% of people, instead of trying to like do thought leadership, try to build a brand, try to teach people, they just
Yeah.
built cool things, did things, helped their community, did whatever with data and did it in public. They're going to be
Mm.
they're going to be getting a lot more benefit than artificially trying to be like, oh, let me pick my brand color and make a beautiful, like I don't do any of that. My profile looks like shit. Yeah, I have a stock photo, but my banner behind there is made in like Canva and 2 clicks, right? And
Ah.
there's no brand color or anything like that. My personal site, nicksing.com, was made for
Mm.
free with Webflow, which is like drag and drop editor, right? You can use
Yeah.
card, you can use link in bio. Like no one's, people think brand means photo shoots and colors and fonts and beauty things. You don't need to do all that for 99% of people.
Yeah, but having a good network actually helps you get good referrals in future. Like
Perfect.
if you are reaching out, if you have a good network, you can reach out to those people and they can help you in referrals. If
So
not referral, they can guide you as well. Like in if
you're
that makes
right.
sense.
You're right. But brand is different than networking, right?
Yeah.
Networking is knowing people and helping them, not just knowing, but helping, right? You're in my network, Jahanvee, even though we've just met, because you post a lot
Yeah.
on LinkedIn. I post a lot. I can help you. You can help me. You're giving Data Lemur shout outs. I'm on your podcast. I'll share your podcast there. You're in my network,
Yeah.
not because we are shaking hands or we're like doing a fake thing. I'm adding value to you and you're adding value to me. And we have a shared common interest to nerd about. So that's really what networking is about. So the
Mm.
brand part is something completely different, I think. Networking is more about just adding value to people, and you can just add value to people by freelancing or by talking about some niche that they also like. Let's say you love to talk about SQL Server or Postgres 14 or optimization and stuff like that. That's a better way to build a network than it is to just
Yeah.
randomly email people and say, hey, can you help me? Or hey, would you like to be in my network? I have 30,000 connections on LinkedIn. That's technically my network, but like, how many of them would I go to that for? Probably no one, because anyone can send anyone a message. It's only people who
Yeah.
help me or help promote me or work with me, like we're doing today, that I can say, oh, you know
Yeah.
what, Jahanvee, she's in my network. I know her. We've talked. We had a good time. She's
Mm.
cool. She's helped me. I've helped her. This is a good person. Right?
Yeah.
So that's my take on branding and networking. It's important, but it first starts with value creation. And
Yeah.
people skip the value creation part. You have to create outsized value consistently for a while. Build stuff for
Yeah.
free, write stuff for free, teach people for free, right? Show that you know what you're doing for a long time. Then all those other things get built. But people always mix it up and say, oh, I'll be able to
Mm.
create value once I meet the right people. And that's always the wrong way to go, especially in today when you can post for
Yeah.
free and do anything for free and just do it on your own.
Definitely. I guess this was my last question, but this is one of the top podcasts where everything was on point. Like all the questions, all the answer, and was really helpful because I've been using and implementing these tips because I've heard it from here and there, your book, and just getting a compilation of the whole podcast was really, really amazing. Thank
Yeah,
you so much, Nick, for this amazing experience, and thank you for coming on. I still remember like reaching out to you for the podcast when I started, and when I finally got to know, oh, when I'm resuming, you will be the first guest on the show. I was like, yes, finally, I did
good,
it.
good. I'm excited,
Level
Jahanvee.
achieved.
Thank you for all the help,
Yeah,
and I'm so glad you like Data Lemur, you like the book, and I really appreciate the support.
yeah,
Thank you, everybody.
definitely.
Cool.
Thank you.
Yeah. Bye.
Well, if you like the podcast, do subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for more episodes.